All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to get into something pretty deep, the architecture of belief itself. We're looking at a really fascinating method called presuppositional apologetics, which comes from the work of a theologian named Cornelius Van Til. It's a powerful and pretty controversial way of thinking about how you even begin to defend an entire worldview.
So, let me ask you this. When you're arguing for something you believe with your whole heart, where do you start? Do you try to find some facts you and the other person can both agree on and then, build your case from there? Or do you challenge their entire starting point? Do you argue that the very ground they're standing on is shaky? This question, right here, is the key to this whole topic.
Okay, let's dive in. According to Van Til, when it comes to defending a belief system like Christian theism, it really boils down to two paths you can take. And these are not just slightly different tactics, we're talking about fundamentally competing methods that start in completely different universes, philosophically speaking.
So this kind of lays out the two sides of the ring. On one side, you've got the common ground method. This is the direct approach. It assumes there's this neutral space, this shared platform of reason, where everyone can come together and look at the facts objectively. But on the other side, you've got the clash of systems method. This is Van Til's camp, and it says, nope, there is no neutral platform. Every single fact you look at is already being seen through the glasses of your worldview.
This first approach is probably the one that feels the most intuitive to a lot of us, right? Van Til pictures it as this kind of cooperative building project. The idea is to say, hey, look, let's agree on some basic stuff. Let's agree that reason works, that the universe follows laws. That's the first floor of the house. Once you've built that together, then the apologist tries to add the second story, the specific beliefs of Christianity. But Van Til's approach? Yeah, it's the total opposite. Forget the friendly, cooperative building project. He says there has to be a head-on collision. So why? Why so dramatic? Well, from his point of view, the two worldviews aren't just using different decorations. They're using completely different blueprints for reality itself. You can't agree on the first floor because you don't even agree on what a floor is made of.
So, okay, if you can't start on common ground, where on earth do you start? Well, Van Til says you have to go deeper. You've got to look under the floorboards of the argument. And this gets us to the absolute heart of his entire method, this idea of reasoning by presupposition.
So here's the big idea. Instead of arguing about individual facts, this method takes a giant step back. It asks a much bigger question. What has to be true about the universe for us to even know things or for logic to even work? What makes science possible? It's not an argument about the facts in the room, it's an argument about the foundation of the room itself.
Now hold on, circular reasoning? Isn't that like a huge logical no-no? Well, Van Til makes this really provocative claim that everybody, and he means everybody, reasons in a circle. Your starting assumptions, your presuppositions, they always shape how you argue and what you conclude. So for him, the game isn't about avoiding circularity, it's about choosing the right circle to be in, the one that actually makes sense of everything.
And this is his brilliant, kind of devastating illustration for his critique of a worldview built on chance. He's saying, look, if you start by assuming that everything, including your own mind, is just the product of random chance, then trying to use that mind to prove anything is like this guy. You're trying to build a ladder of logic out of the very water of chaos you're trying to escape. You have absolutely no solid ground to stand on.
Here's another powerful way to think about it. The argument for God in this system isn't like pointing to another chair in the room, just one more fact among many. No, it's like pointing to the beams that are holding up the entire floor you're standing on. You might not see them, but without them, there's no floor, there's nothing. God, in this view, is the necessary precondition for reality to even be intelligible. Okay, so if God is the ultimate presupposition, the beams under the floor, then where does a text like the Bible fit into all of this? Is it just another piece of historical evidence to be examined? For Van Til, absolutely not. Its role is way more fundamental. See, in this framework, Scripture isn't just a book of clues you're supposed to analyze from some neutral, objective distance. Instead, it claims to be the light source itself. It's the set of glasses, the interpretive grid, that allows you to see all the other facts, from science to history, in their true light. And he has another one of these amazing images to make the point. He says that using your own independent human reason to judge Scripture is like lighting a tiny candle to go search for the sun. You've got it completely backward. The sun's existence is what makes it possible for you to see anything at all, including the flame of your little candle.
And all of this has been building to a final, really crucial conclusion about the way this argument is structured. If every fact gets its meaning from the system it's in,
then you can't argue for the system one little piece at a time. It's an all-or-nothing deal.
Van Til was a major critic of the common ground method for what he called its atomistic approach, basically breaking things down into little disconnected atoms of fact. He argued that you can't prove that some generic God exists first and then later try to prove this God is the Christian God. For him, Christian theism is one seamless, interconnected system, a blockhouse, not a pile of loose blocks.
So this really brings it all into focus, doesn't it? You have these two totally different pictures of truth. The Clash view says Christian theism is one unified package deal. You have to take it or leave it as a whole. But the Common Ground view sees it more like a construction project, where you can build a general foundation and then add the specifically Christian parts on top later.
And this is maybe the perfect way to sum up the two strategies. One method wants to build a bridge, starting from where the other person is standing, and gently lead them across. The other method says, sorry, the ground you're standing on is collapsing. It insists that you have to take a leap of faith, in a sense, and cross over to an entirely new foundation, just to be able to see reality clearly.
At the end of the day, the big takeaway here isn't just about understanding one specific theological argument. It's actually a challenge for all of us, no matter what we believe. It pushes us to ask some really hard questions. What are my own unspoken presuppositions? What are the invisible beams under my own floor? The foundational assumptions that I just take for granted that make my entire worldview possible? Something to think about.